Hi there, good people and the internet. There are some good people out there. I believe that. And I am just another person on the internet talking to you today and sharing some of the things that I think. Now, this is my first episode of things that I think. And I don't know if you need to know the things that I think. I don't even know if I should be thinking the things that I think. But I feel that this is a nice way to kind of like get some of this out my mind and chest in a therapeutic kind of way. So think of it as you're doing me a favor, allowing me to just bleh, just babble, right? And perhaps maybe you'll find some identification with that. The first thing I want to talk about is something that I used to think when I was really, really young. And look, when you're younger, the world is so much smaller, right? And so, you don't have all the information. You don't have years of experience and wisdom to guide some of your thoughts. And and so, I'm going to share with you an instance where, well, let me put it this way: I went to a Catholic grammar school years ago. I was younger. That was like my experience with grade school. It was Catholic grammar school, and my mother was volunteering. The school was having a flea market. Now, I never had heard of a flea market before. My mom was volunteering to help out at the flea market, and she told me that this was happening, right? And and I was just really confused by a f- what is a flea market? Like what does that mean? And my first thought was, and I think it was a thought that most of us have when we've encountered the term flea market, is that are there people buying and selling fleas at the flea market? How bizarre. Why would people do that? Do people have, fleas? And are there people who want fleas? Right? I mean, is this a cottage industry, a business that is of importance if it's, you know so I was just really, really confused. And for a while leading up to the flea market day, like, I really thought that people were buying and selling fleas. I look, I was just a kid, and that's kind of like the thought I had in my mind. And I know I'm not the only one who's thought of that. Um, but the day comes, and I'm anxious, right? My mother had already left to volunteer at this crazy event called the flea market. Um, and I was with my father, and we had my father had decided that he would take me um, to the flea market to see mom and whatnot, and do what people do. It's like buy fleas. The thing is, in retrospect, like I never asked my parents, um, what's going on in a flea market. Are people selling and buying fleas? I thought maybe I thought that that was just such a crazy thought that I it wasn't worth like asking, right? Because it was just I don't know if I wanted to know it, if that was really what was going on at the flea market. Like, you know what I mean? Like, man, I mean, like, like you've heard of fleas, right? The dogs have fleas, and you take them to the vet. It's like, oh no, the dog has fleas. Stop the presses, stop whatever we're doing. We got to take the dog to the vet and get some flea shampoo to get those fleas out, right? Um, at an early age, I had been able to correlate um, fleas like with lice. Like, I mean, I thought of lice like kids having lice. I never had lice, but but I thought, okay, that's like head lice, right? That's like fleas, and that was not a good thing either. So I was just like really super conflicted at the time, and I just didn't know what to do. I mean, it was really probably one of the true first true tests that I encountered in my life, right? Like in my young, not knowing what flea markets life was, right? It was wow, why are people doing this? So I don't want to drag this long. So my father and I, we get to the flea market, and like I'm like nervous, and you walk into this, you go up the steps, you open the door, and there's like a little hallway to the school gym. And I remember the doors were to the right. And so like I'm slowly walking and peeking my head, like, you know, like peeking down the stairs to see if there's presents under the Christmas tree, right? That kind of thing, without the joy of like Christmas, you know. And I saw tables and people on either side of tables, and I saw things on the tables, and like I still didn't really hit me what was going on until I get to the first table, and I don't see any fleas. Oh yeah, here's another thing. I felt like there was cages, like with the fleas in it. That's what I was expecting to see. Like cages, like a bird cage, like enough room between the bars for thousands of fleas to go through. But for some reason in my mind, the fleas would stay were in there, and they would stay in there, right? Like an invisible force between the bars of the cages would not allow them to get to the other side. So I thought it was just like, fleas just jumping up and down, right, in these cages. And fully expected that's what I was going to see. And I didn't see that. I didn't see any cages. I didn't see anything um, that was reminiscent of flea imprisonment or flea exchange with people, back and forth, dealing fleas. Um, so there was a part of me that was really relieved. Actually, a huge part of me that was really relieved, and then just like another part of me that was just like utterly confused. And why would they call it a flea market? And I got to be honest with you, um, I still don't know why they call it a flea market. There was never ever any follow up in my mind. Like I think like I was just so relieved that I wasn't going to walk into a gymnasium full of fleas, that I kind of just like, you know, and then like, I was engulfed with all the bric-a-brac that was being sold, and all the baseball cards. There was like knick-knacks, like junk. It was junk, other people's junk that still fascinated me, and so I didn't thought of following up with my parents and asking them what was the flea market. I never spoke to them about that. I don't think I ever spoke to my mom or my dad and asked them, or told them like, what I was thinking, because like, I felt like, foolish, right? I felt a little foolish and dumb, although mostly relieved. And so it's like, I'm not one of those things, like a 7 or 8 year old, wants to admit, even at that age, I knew, like, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to share that. I didn't want them to know that I thought it was a flea. They probably were expecting, honestly, if they had gone through the same thing when they were younger, thinking that fleas were being sold at a flea market, that I would have those same similar questions, and I didn't. And maybe they thought I was a genius, and they never brought it up. Maybe there was like, oh, this kid is 2 steps ahead of what we were back then. And you know what? Let's not bring up that that we had thought that fleas were being sold at flea markets, and then we'll look dumb in front of our kid. So I like to think that that was probably going on. Um, yeah, yeah. So I, at one point in my life, I thought that fleas were being sold at a flea market. Did you think that? Do you have anything similar flea market experience? I would love to hear what you have to say. Please put a comment below. Share this idiotic video. Um, I would appreciate it. I'm going to come up with some more things that I think that probably you don't need to know that I think, shortly. And have a great, great day. Take care.